All right, so let's get started. I hope you guys can hear me. We have two on the line as of now, that is Sahib and Srikanth. Let's get started with the details on the Informatica Administrator training. So I hope you guys already know what is you're looking for and everything. Um, Basically, to start with, the prerequisites for attending this training is you need to have a little bit of knowledge in the SQL. Basically, when you want to install Informatica, you might have to create the users in the, you might have to create the users in the Oracle database and grant the necessary privileges to the user, and then use those users while setting up or installing the Informatica. And yeah, so the relational database, so preferably, I mean, we are going to use Oracle because we are going to choose Oracle as a domain database, and the this repository database. And when we set up this model repository service and everything, so that time also we'll use Oracle database, which is available on our environment. And you might have to understand the basic Unix commands because we are going to, I mean, I'm going to show you the installation setup on the Linux environment, like how we can set up the Informatica installation. And Windows installation is something it's pretty much easy compared to the Linux installation. We'll see Linux installation on the command mode, like how you can, the how you can set up and all those things. Okay. And see, basically, I'll just show you today. Probably we'll discuss about the domain architecture. First one, I'll give you the details on the domain architecture, how the Informatica architecture will be, and how this is available, and which version of Informatica we are going to understand, and all those things. And these are all the different components, I mean, that we are going to understand. One is that installing it on the Informatica 9, and Informatica installation in Windows, Informatica installation in Linux. And yeah, so once we understand the architecture, we see these things, and we'll configure the all the services, by default, whatever the services that you see in the admin console. If you're already aware of the Informatica architecture, you don't, yeah, I'm just opening it anyway. We'll understand more details when we go to the actual training. So this is admin console, which will be used by the Informatica administrators predominantly for performing the most of the activities as an administrator. So we are going to understand that. So basically, we are going to configure all the services required for a power center, and then the, the integration, power center, IDQ, Informatica analyst, everything will be driven from the Informatica administrator console. You can say Informatica administration console is a single point of console where you can actually perform most of the activities using it. So we are going to understand all these things. So pretty much, the domain logs, and what are the tabs, like how do we use them, how to configure each and every service, what are the properties that you have to set up, all these things which we see that in the administration console. And how can we install the Informatica to bring up this, how to troubleshoot the issues if your admin console is not opening, and where and all you have to check for issues and everything that we'll discuss. So that is about your configuration of all these services. See, basically, we are going to, yeah, how to start the services and how to stop the services. How do I know that my Informatica service is running on the, the Linux box? So if it is Windows, how do you start the services? And all those things will be there. And next one is, main thing is about the security management in Informatica. So the security management is more like, see, whenever you go and join a project, as a multiple developers will be there. So each one of them will have the, the user with the respective privileges, which will be designed in the, I mean, in the general process. So basically, as an administrator, you have to create the users, you need to create the different groups and roles and assign to them so that they get necessary privileges. You know, that is something that which we are going to understand again by using a security tab, that is you are within the Informatica domain console. You have something called as a security tab, so using which you're going to set up the different users and different groups, different profiles, I mean different roles, and account management. Basically, whenever some user is locked, and how to unlock them, and how to disable the user access for a particular user. Suppose, let's say, if the user is leaving the project, so you should disable their access and all those things. So that is, you need to manage that by using a security tab. So we are going to understand how to set up the each user and how to assign the privileges to the users and everything on the security tab. And more importantly, the next one is about the LDAP authentication. So, see, basically, um, in all the organizations, like when you go and join a project, it is not that for each and every application you'll have a different username and password. Okay, so what happens is that same network username and password can be used to log into Informatica as well. See, let's say if I go and join a Wells Fargo company, okay, Wells Fargo, for accessing all the networks across the Wells Fargo client, they'll give me one username and password which will be set up, and the same username and password I can use to access all the applications across that. So whether if I'm accessing OBIE, I'll use the same username and password. If I'm using Informatica, I'll use the same username and password. If I'm using a database also, I mean, in some cases, so I'll use the same username and password. So how do you centralize the user access? That is nothing but using a LDAP authentication. So once you configure the LDAP, they can use the same network username and password for logging into Informatica. So if you want to enable all the users to log into Informatica using this LDAP authentication, I mean, using their network username and password, so you can actually set up an LDAP authentication, which is called as a Microsoft Active Directory. So we may not be seeing this practically in our environment, but we see the procedure how it will be done. So the LDAP authentication can be done from this, basically on the security side of it. So we'll see how the LDAP authentication or LDAP configuration is being done, but we may not be able to see it practically, because we do not have a Microsoft Active Directory, which is in our training environment. But we will understand the procedure, how the LDAP configuration is done. So this is, you could say, the most common task which you may perform as an administrator when you are setting up a new environment, because all the users have to be authenticated against this one. So you can do that. We will understand the procedure, what you have to do and how you have to do and everything, and we are going to provide you the document for it, like how you can configure the LDAP authentication and all those. So okay, so this is the another one, probably you can say, the under the security management. And yeah, this is a simple side of it. Like when you say Power Center repository and the client application management, uh, you know, connection management is like, if you already are working as a developer, basically we need to set up different connections within the workflow manager, for interacting with your source system, for interacting with your target system and all. So these connections generally, we do not leave it to developers to create their own connections. Instead, basically, if the administrators are maintaining it, then you'll not have all the junk connections which are being created across the environment. So we'll see that how the connection management is done with respect to the Power Center and predominantly, and we'll also look at the even data quality as well. So how to do that. And the folder maintenance, yeah, the folder maintenance is nothing but, whenever there is a new project which is getting started in your environment, so you go and create a new folder and assign the necessary privileges to the on the folders to the people and everything. And next one is about the migration, Power Center repository metadata deployment. once the development is done, you have to migrate the code. So what are the different ways that you can migrate the code that we are going to check? And next one is about the command line programs, like using a PMCMD, PMRep, and how do you create the users using the shell script. See, basically all of a sudden there are some 10 to 15 developers have joined the project on a one single day. And can we automate the process of, the create, can we automate the process of creating the users? So, the in our environment we have done the we have automated the users creation. So if you just execute a shell script and give the 10 usernames, it will just run in the backend. You don't need to really set up. So we are going to see how we can do that. And there are, the most of the activities, any project that you go as an administrator, most of the domain activities and the repository activities are automated. See, suppose let's say, um, as per the best practice or a policy in your company or a client, you have to take the backup of the repository every 1 week. So every 1 week, it's like a manual task for an Informatica administrator to take the backup of your repository, whatever you're working on. Okay, I don't know if I can. Maybe I think I have to open it one more time, so I'll just do that. So taking a backup of the repository is, the every day you have to take it. So in that case, see, all the activities can be done by using UI, but what what is the case is that, suppose if you can automate, then you can avoid the manual operations and everything. So taking a backup and then the restoration of the repository and everything, or in case if you want to restore it from the higher environments and everything, so you can take the backup. So these type of activities, like, the uh, backup, restoration and everything, those things will also look at the those things, we'll also look at the in the process, or how to automate the process and how to automate the log management. And moreover, see, we will always automate the different things, alert management, mainly to check whether the space in the Informatica server is going down below 20% of the unused space. All these kind of alerts also will set up. And how to start and stop workflows using a command line utilities. So this is using a PMCMD command, we'll see, and how to use a infacmd command for update. And let's say whenever you want to update the gateway nodes and any information, we'll also see the info setup command, how we can do that. That is also we'll discuss. And the metadata reporting is like, once the um, programs are created, and if you want to understand basically the particular source is being used by how many mappings or how many workflows, then you can actually use metadata reporting. And the license administration, see, often your license, let's say if you're purchasing for 1 year or something, or if you are using a trial version, your license might get expired. Then how do you update the license? What are the different ways to update the license? Yeah, different ways to update the license. And this reference table management is actually used for Informatica IDQ for a data quality. Basically, you can define different reference tables and then do that. So we are going to understand even that. So basically, these are all the things that we are going to work out. And apart from this, we'll also understand general troubleshooting issues, and what are all the Informatica admin responsibilities as an Informatica admin, like what are the activities that you do, um, admin responsibilities, what is how do you troubleshoot it, where do you check for the errors. And since we are going to understand it on the Linux, so we are going to also provide you the sample environment where you can actually set up the Informatica, or we will provide you the Linux version with the including the setup. So probably you can also run that and see how you can configure that one. So basically, I'm also going to show you on the, see, now currently we have Informatica 961, which is running on our Linux box. So we are going to maybe, yeah, we are actually preparing the Informatica 10 environment, Informatica 10.0, so which you might be knowing already that 10 is a latest version. So you're going to understand all these things. Basically, if I want to understand whether my Informatica service is running or not, so I'm just looking for a service, the grep info. So this will give me the services which it is running in the background. So if you see, all the different services, different processes are running within the background of Informatica. So one is for so different one. So one is for a PM server. Even you can, if you just want to understand whether your the power center server is running or not, so even you can look for that service. So if you want to look for all the Informatica services which are running, so PS is a command to identify the services, and then PS-AEF, and let's say grep info, so that will give you the list of services which are running in the background. So this is where that we are going to see the complete Linux installation and how to troubleshoot it. So basically, whenever there is an issue, while let's say often in a development environment or in a testing environment, we'll bounce the servers. Bouncing the servers is nothing but restarting the servers. We'll stop the service and then bring up, maybe if some of the patches are installed in the Windows environment, or if there is any network outage. So what they say that, okay, you bring down all the services and bring up. So how do you start and stop the service on the how do you start and stop the service, and basically where do you actually troubleshoot it? So whenever you start the services and everything, Informatica will be installed on the backend. There is a web server called as a Tomcat. So all the logs and everything related to your restarting of the services and everything will be present in this logs folder. So we are going to understand what is this Catalina.out does. If you look at it, it will tell you how the if you look at it. So basically, yeah. So I think this is not the place where we have. So I think we need to go to U01 info 961 ls cd tomcat. There are two instances which are running in this. So one of the instances is corrupted. I think that's the instance that we looked at it. Now I'm just trying to show you how whenever you start Informatica services, we can't just bring down the services on this because there are a lot of users. So if you see, there are more errors which are available here. So you can understand. Okay, so this is one of the error saying that TLS for a node is set to false, which doesn't match the TLS of that node. And this is when your node is started. So if you see, the node is starting in this mode, and what are all the services. So whenever you start it, first it will bring up the Tomcat, then it will bring up the domain service, master core services. So we are going to understand all these services, like what is the use of each service and all these things. So whenever you want to troubleshoot, if you have any domain related issues, and if you want to troubleshoot anything, so you can always come to this Catalina.out, which will tell you whether the domain is started or the services are started. So once you bring up all these services, then only you can access this admin console. So whatever the admin console that we are using, so that admin console can be accessible. See, this admin console will be available for you as a Informatica administrator once you set up the complete Informatica. So we'll see that, like how complete setup can be done with respect to that. This is one. And also whenever you have node related issues, everything, so we'll go and check in the node.log and understand that what are the issues related to the node, or if the node is successfully started whenever you have started it, or if you have any issues with the node, all those things can be determined with respect to this node one. So whatever the errors related to the node, everything will be present over here within this node.log. See, these are all the things why I'm showing you is to just to give you the glimpse of like what we are going to learn in the Informatica administrator training. But to just to give you the overall idea for today, let's understand the different components of the Informatica. Like what are all the different components, and how do you? What are the prerequisites for installing, and where and all you can set up the domain database and all those things that we'll check. Right. So far, any questions on the things that we discussed so far about the syllabus and everything? Sahib, Srikanth, do you guys have any questions?
No, Karthik.
You're good? Okay. Sahib, anything from your end?
Yeah, I'm good, Karthik.
Okay. So now what I'll show you, I'll just show you the outline architecture of Informatica and its components, okay? So how it will be? So as I said, we are going to understand the Informatica 10.0. That is the latest version which is available, Informatica 10.0. And earlier we had which version before to this we had, yeah, I'll keep you guys on the mute so to avoid the noise. Okay. So Informatica 961 was a earlier version. Now currently in our environment we are running the Informatica 961. Yeah. So along with this, I forgot to mention. So we are also going to understand how to upgrade Informatica. So we are also going to see how the upgrade can be done. See, what do you mean by an upgrade is that suppose let's say client is using 961 now, and you have to migrate from, I mean, now the Informatica 10 is into the market. So you buy a 10 license. So basically it is not possible for each and every client to set up the new environment and replicate entire thing from this to that. So without that, you can actually use an upgrade and then upgrade the Informatica, complete domain upgrade, you can do it. And you can also do the repository upgrade and all those things. So even you can also do the upgrade directly from the console itself again. So when you look at the domain, basically you can completely upgrade the domain, and see there is an option called as an upgrade. So whatever the services that, so once you install Informatica 10, right, so then it will show you what are all the services that you want to upgrade, so you can select it and upgrade accordingly to that. So this is completely the upgrade level. So we are also going to understand how to upgrade Informatica lower version to higher version, and we will provide you the document related to it, like how you have to upgrade from lower environment, I mean lower version to the higher version. So forward compatibility is always possible. Backward compatibility is not possible. It's like now you're working on Informatica 961. If I want to go down to 9.0.1, so which is not possible in case of that. So yeah, this is the overall syllabus, or you can say the list of components that we are going to learn as part of this. But to give you the much insight, now I'm going to discuss about basically the Informatica components which we have. Okay, so as I said, the Informatica is like, as you might be knowing already, like it's like a client server architecture. It's like a client server architecture, which means they will give you two components when you go and buy the software. So one is your Informatica client, and another is your Informatica server. That is your Informatica server. So Informatica server is something that which you can set up on a single node or on a multi-node cluster as well. Okay. So this is a client and this is a server. So you're always client server architecture. When you say client and server, it communicates client and server based on the TCP IP. That is what the client server architecture means. So in Informatica 10.0, basically we have only two clients, basically in the Informatica 10.0 version, where you have a Informatica Power Center client and the developer client. So Informatica Power Center and Informatica Developer. So basically, Informatica Power Center clients are used for completely for a data integration purpose. As you might be knowing that repository manager, designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. And the Informatica Developer is nothing but a which is used for IDQ development for developing all the things. I don't have Informatica 10. Probably when we get started with the course, we will understand how Informatica 10 version being installed. I mean, Informatica 10 being installed in our machines and how we connect, how we configure, and everything. So when you talk about the compatibility of your client and the server, client must be installed in Windows always. You don't have any other choice. I mean, it is not compatible with other type of operating systems. And when you look at the Informatica server, yes. So Informatica server is something that which can be set up on a multiple operating system. So basically, we are going to set up our Informatica 10.0 on the Linux, and it can be set up on the HP UX, and basically you can also install it on the IBM AIX and Red Hat Linux or all the type of OS, and also the Windows operating system. You can also set up on the Windows 7, 2003 server, 2007 server, and all those. So this is compatible. So basically, whenever you're installing the Informatica server, so as you might be knowing, you must have a database available. So without the database, you can't install the Informatica server. But if I want to install the Informatica client, you don't really need a database. Directly, I can copy the Informatica client software and then install the Informatica client in any individual machine. But when you want to install the Informatica server, you must have the database available. So what is that database is about, and what does it store? See, while installing Informatica, it will ask you to choose the database. So that is nothing but the domain database. So what do you mean by a domain, and what do you mean by the domain database? So you could say that domain is a logical group of nodes, services, nodes, whatever we have. Node is nothing but a machine where Informatica is installed, that is called as a node. So logical group of nodes and services, and the licenses, whatever you have, and the license management and all those things is called as a domain. So basically, whenever you set up the Informatica server, Informatica will create some set of metadata tables, which are closer to some 170 metadata tables. So 170 metadata tables which will be created. And this is basically the domain database will hold all the details about, the domain database will hold all the details about your complete list of tables. This will store completely your user information as well as the node information and the different services that you have configured in the Informatica. All this information will be present in the domain database. So this domain database is created while installing the Informatica. So while installing the Informatica server, it will be created. So when I say domain database, it's a set of or predefined metadata tables. You could say that predefined metadata tables which are created during the installation of Informatica server. So it will be created. Now the question is about which database I can choose it as a domain database. So when you say a domain database, I can choose only one of these four databases which is available. So whether it is Oracle or whether it is SQL Server, if it is SQL Server or the Sybase and then the DB2. So only these databases I can choose. So you can ask me, okay, can I choose Teradata as my domain database? Answer is no, you can't choose it. Now it is compatible only with these four databases, which means, so along with the Informatica license, you must have one of these database license to install the Informatica server. And your Informatica is not a standalone thing which you do it. So once you set up the Informatica server, then you'll get this kind of administration console. Yeah, it will also ask you to enter the username and password to the access the Informatica administration console. So basically, using that administration console, you can access the Informatica server. So once you get that Informatica, the administration console, which will be generally by the host name, HTTP colon. If you don't enable the security, HTTPS secured protocol, it will be the host name. Host name is nothing but a master gateway node host name where you have installed, and this is going to be the some default port is going to be 6005. So once you get access to this, you can use this URL. I mean, after the installation, it will give you the URL. So you can use this URL and start accessing the Informatica server. So using the administration console only, we are going to set up all these services with respect to this, and we will configure all of them. So basically, we'll see that how to configure. And now coming back to the domain architecture, we'll talk about the domain. So as I said, like we'll understand more about the domain and what is it, and what do you mean by the different nodes and everything. Okay. So when you look at the basically the domain is, you can call it as a group of nodes, or a logical group of nodes, which you can call it as a domain. So let me show you how the basically the domain architecture is going to be. So this is basically the different. I mean, one domain can have multiple nodes within it. One domain can have a multiple nodes in it, but your nodes are basically classified as three different types. You can call it as, one is a master gateway node, and another is a gateway node, and another is a worker node. What we have, and this is your domain database. So whatever you have, so this is what your domain level architecture is going to be. So this is your domain database, where all those 170 metadata tables are created. And see, now the question is, if the domain database is down, your Informatica also will goes down, because it is completely dependent on the domain database. So what it does is, the master gateway node, and worker node. Let's understand what is a gateway node, what is a worker node, and what is a master gateway node. See, the worker node is something that which is just used for a processing or execution of your ETL jobs, that is your ETL workflows, and which doesn't have a privilege to update or connect to your domain database. It's just a worker node. It doesn't have a privilege to connect to your domain database or update something on the domain database. It is not possible. So when you look at the gateway node, so gateway node is something that which has a privilege to update, and when you say the master gateway node is something that which is currently has a privilege to update the things on the domain database. So it's like you can call it as a primary node. So primary node, which is responsible for bringing up, or where all the services are running, or I mean, you cannot say all the services are running. So master gateway node is something that it's a gateway node which manages all the other nodes, what you call. So when you see, basically this is what is a master gateway node does. So master gateway node, it will update in the domain database. It will also manage all the tasks. When I say manage all the tasks, it's nothing but it will bring up all the services and everything. So constantly your master gateway node will be in touch with your domain database. For every second, it will be checking, okay, whether my database is up and running or not. So why it has to check? Because if the domain database goes down, everything is down. You can't do anything. That's why it will be keep checking for every 8 seconds whether my domain database is up or not. So suppose, let's say, for some reason, to understand more on the gateway side, so for some reason, because of the network failure or a hardware crash, so your master gateway node is down, then how does your switch will happen? Your Informatica will not be brought down. Your Informatica, generally, if you are installing the Informatica on a single node, right? So single node means I'm installing only on my computer. Okay, let's say if this computer is down, automatically all the services will be down and everything will be down, and your Informatica also will be down. But in case of a production environment and everything, to make this highly available, we actually set up a group of nodes. We set up a group of nodes. So when you set up that, see, for some reason your master gateway node goes down, there are other nodes which can do the same job as master gateway node is doing. You know how that switch will happen, we will understand in very detail and do it. So basically, to make your Informatica highly available, when I say highly available, without a downtime. So when you want to make this is highly available, then your master gateway node, if it goes down, so then the corresponding gateway node which you have, that becomes a master gateway node, and it starts communicating with your domain database. So you can say the master gateway node and gateway node are the nodes which has a privilege to manage the domain database, but the gateway node is like a secondary node and master gateway node is like a primary node. So whenever a primary node goes down, your secondary node comes into picture and make sure that there is no downtime, or there is no outage for your services or anything, and then do it. So in order to make sure that all are up and running, so these nodes, whatever we have, whether it is a worker node or a gateway node, it will be sending a signal to your master gateway node to check, okay, whether it is up and running or not. Something like, from the gateway node, it will ping that node saying that, okay, so are you up and running or not? So as soon as, if it is up and running, then there is no issue for a gateway node. So if it is goes down uh, within a less time, it has to switch as a gateway node, master gateway node. So these are all the mechanism which happens within the domain database. So there will be a table which will allow you to choose the master gateway node based on the algorithm. It will see that. So basically, this is where when you go to the a development environment, probably the development environment might be set up on a single node or a multiple node. But when you go to the production environment and all, you'll have multiple nodes which are being configured, because you'll be running a high volume of data loads and everything. So worker nodes will take care of only the processing of the data, but the gateway node and everything, it makes sure that your Informatica server is up and running, and which will take care of the updates in the domain database level. So this is your simple representation of a domain with the help of nodes. So basically, this is another diagram, so which will represent that gateway nodes can update the data on the domain database, and it can take care of all these activities, like bringing up all the services like a repository service, integration service, and other services which are running. And worker node is basically worker node is just the takes care of the process and everything. Okay. Now, a master gateway node performs all the tasks. It runs on the administrator tool. So if you want to understand whether it is a gateway node or a master gateway node, so there is a one node only. So if you see, it will tell you whether it is a gateway node or a master node. It will tell you. So now this is what is a property. When you go and click on any node, it will tell you that whether it is a gateway node or a not. So if this property is no, which means you can, that is like a worker node. So basically that becomes a worker node. If you say gateway node is equal to no, that is nothing but a worker node what we have. So whenever you want to add a node, or whenever you would like to add a node to the domain, so this is your domain. So domain is a group of nodes and everything. So whenever you want to add a new node, you can always add it from here and whatever. So we'll see that, like how to add a node to a domain, everything on the Informatica front. So like how do you add a node to a domain, and node can be added to an existing domain using the installation process, or you can also do that by using a other ways to add that by using a administrator, or you can even add that by using info setup command. Okay. So info setup command, see, command line interface, from the command line interface also, you can add all the nodes to the existing domain and everything. See, my attempt was in the demo class to help you to understand this terminology, what is a domain and what is a node, what is a worker node and what is a gateway node. But anyway, when we go to the training, Informatica Administrator training, we will understand completely how it is there. So we are going to understand these things as well. Infra CMD, infra setup. So using an infra setup also, you can define a worker node, gateway node, and all those things. So delete a domain and okay, one second. Um, define gateway node, define worker node. You can also do that from the backend. I can just give the domain name and everything and pass all the details. It will automatically add the domain to that. So this also can be done with respect to that. So we'll see a lot of command line references as well, how we can do it. And so this is pretty much what I have for the demo purpose. So if you guys have any questions, probably we can discuss that, and you can share your feedback to
Power Exchange and ILM. What is that? What are they?
Informatica Power Exchange is a plugin which is available for a real-time integration. Yes, you can set up the Informatica Power Exchange plugins and everything as part of Informatica only. So this is a combination that you get: Power Exchange, Listener Service, Logger Service. This is for a real-time integration. ILM is for information lifecycle management, but I'm not really sure like where it is applicable in the Informatica world. ILM is not part of this. That's again a separate product that you get from the Informatica.
So the Power Exchange is maintained by the Informatica administrator, right?
Yes.
Okay.
For that, you need a separate license. Like when you want to set up this Power Exchange, Listener Service, Logger Service, and all, you must have a separate license, and then you can set up the listener, which will take care of the setting up the real-time integration data and everything. You can set up that.
So, okay. And one more thing, so Informatica CDC or something, CDC, it's a part of.
No, Informatica CDC is more like Power Exchange CDC only. We call it for a real-time integration. CDC is something that which we implement as part of your workflows, and whenever you define ETL jobs and everything, right? So there only we implement CDC. So change it.
That's not a separate tool like a Power Exchange. Okay.
No.
Okay. And then, so you tell me like Informatica administrator, and then when we used in Power Center client, the repositories look like I thought initially I thought that was actually they have all the workflow folders and everything. I thought that is the administration. So I mean, a little confused.
So the domain database is something that which will store the details related to your Power Center. I mean, all the components in your Informatica. Power Center repository database, as you said, that will be created while setting up the Power Center repository service, and that will be basically used to store all the components, as you mentioned, like workflows, mappings, and everything will be stored in the Power Center repository database. So we are going to set up this, and then we'll also understand some of the metadata queries as well, like how do you read the metadata from Power Center, all those things also we'll see that. That is nothing but your metadata reporting. We understand that.
Okay. So we have in the Power Center client, we have Power Center Monitor, Power Center Designer, and then Workflow Manager, and then one more is like a repository manager, right?
Yeah.
And that is a part of the client tool.
It's a part of the client. It's a part of the client, but it's more used by an administrator, for migrating the code. For migrating the code and for setting up the folders, everything we do we use a repository manager.
Okay. But as a developer, we won't work much on repository manager, right?
As a developer, yes, you'll be less onto the repository manager side, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Srikanth, you have any question? Please go ahead.